Oh, thank the great sapfish I finally got that working again. This is why I don't play Turf War. Anyway, now that that's finally over, I better get back to Project Horseshoe. By the way, just for how long was I not able to respawn? Wait, what? Or at least that's what I would have loved to have been the reason, but it's a little bit more difficult than that. Yeah, the hard drive we use for all of the assets of our channel broke, and that took 2 whole months to get repaired. That's why we've been gone for so long. And ready to get going again with part 4 of Project Horseshoe. So let's get started on the body of the drone for real this time. Finally, we can finish this long project. And since we've been away for a little while, let's start with a nostalgic base for most of our projects, taping and gluing the patterns we use for the parts. Thanks to some evenings of research, we've been able to make a 2D side and top view of the drone, which we've been able to use for all of the measurements that we're going to need for this project. These were then noted on the reference sheet or downloaded through templatemaker.nl for all the truncated cone parts. And of course, all of these different parts need to be traced onto their respective materials. For most of these, this will be the lightweight material foam board. But for just a few, the materials we have for them are going to need to be a little bit more flexible. So let's start on the most iconic piece of the body, the helmet. For this we've been able to make a pattern for some EVA foam using the program Papercura. This tool you can upload 3D models to be exported into paper patterns. Using these we can make the patterns for both halves of the shell and the spikes. After those are cut and glued, we can start to cut out all of the parts from foam board. Mostly, so let's start on the bottom of the helmet. Then we can cut all of the truncated cones for the arms and the rest of the cones for the body. Then we cut the rectangles for the round bases of the main body. Next are some circles for the ends of some of the truncated cones. Most of these are going to be for the motors, but also some nice big ones for the bottom of the main body. And so, once most of the pieces are cut, we can start all of the bending of the foam board for all of the round and truncated cone parts. With us first focusing on one of the motors, bending the circles and the cones and gluing these together. Then capping it off with one of the smaller circles and one of the wings for the bottom of the motors. This made it that some of the parts like the motors were assembled just a bit too early. So these had to be remade and left into 3 different parts. The circle part of the motor, the bottom part of the motor and the arm, which we're finishing now. Only we had thought how to install the electronics at this point in the project. But we still have some more EVA foam work to finish first. So with all of the slices glued into 2 different halves, we can glue these to the bottom of the helmet. And with the first half already in place, we only have to use the contact cement on the leftover, spiked half. So we apply the glue to the end of the first half and the surface of the foam board where the edges of the EVA foam will touch. Then we leave this alone for just a few minutes, after which we can press the 2 halves together. And now that that glue has to dry, we can continue on the glasses of the drone, with its fair share of circles, bent strips and truncated cones. And as you can see here, a special lens that we 3D printed with some transparent filament to make this specific part of the drone as accurate as possible. With both of those done, we have to start on the big main body. Starting by bending more of these strips, angling the circles for a tighter fit, and finally curving the cones. Then we can glue these together, working our way up from the big circle as the base. Once those are all glued, we have to cut out the hole for the lenses to be placed in. Which wasn't easy, but with time we were able to get it. Next up are the motor arms. These have some vent details on the reference photos, so naturally those are also necessary on a replica. Both on the arm and around the circle. And with that, we have all of the parts of the body finished. A white primer is used for all of the parts of the drone, from the helmet, to the main body, and every motor arm. This will seal the open edges of the foam board and make it so it will melt less when we go and apply the spray paints. Speaking of, some Montana black spray paint is used for their army green, black and orange as a base for the colors of the drone. So with those applied, we can use some more precise colors, starting with this logo on the front of the helmet. First applying a stencil, traced by hand, to be covered with some nice yellow spray paint. Next up are the motors and their black parts. But not all of these black parts need to stay black, because some of it will be a base for some silver details. And with that round of painter step done, we can remove what's not needed anymore and see how our paint job looks. The yellow icon on the helmet, the black and orange combo on the main body, and the silver and black parts of the arms. But alas, as we said earlier, it wasn't meant to be for these motor arms. So we need to make a new set of 4. So, after another round of cutting, shaping, gluing and spray painting, we have a set that will be able to house all of the electronic parts. So, let's continue by preparing the main body for those parts. We're first cutting out the holes for the openings of the arms in the main body, then curving the ends of the arms to match the main circle and gluing those on. Then the 3D printed base from part 3 is inserted and the aluminium profile is slid in via the ends of the arms. Then we need to pull out the motors and cut away a little bit the circle to make space for the 3D printed motor mounts. These are then glued in, and with the extrude and the motor added, we can attach them to their arm. And after some squeezing, we can make it permanent with some more hot glue. Then we only need these 3D printed slide locks for the helmet to stay in place. And finally we can attach some more 3D printed locks for the end of the motors to make them more accessible for the LED lights at the bottom. Speaking of which, this will be the last thing we will need to add for the drone. So with a second try of soldering later, we only have to update the program of the flight controller, and with that we have the body and the building phase of Sheldon's drone finished. Hey Creagears, Roboy here, and we hope you really enjoyed the final build episode of Project Horseshoe. With us being so close to the end, I think it's fitting to give one more shout out to our Patreon supporters, which are Matt and Yamayuse Kevin. Without the support of our Patreons, we would have never been able to dream about starting a big drone replica project like this. So thank you guys so much.
Sure.
But it seems that now we have one more episode to go, seeing as we still need to check the strength of the motors and learn how to and show us flying the drone. So that will be the final episode 5 of the project. But we're probably going to have to leave that for another time. With us already working 6 months on the building and even longer with the months of research, I feel like we're going to need to take a little bit of a break from the drone. But after a few projects, we will be back to show it working. Don't worry about that.
Are you with me?
But that's going to be all from us for now. Keep those creative gears turning, and we will see you in the next video. We did it, Mira. We're finally back. Oh, it feels so good to finally be able to finish it. I can't wait to start on the Clash Blaster next week.